Never mind.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the BOCC work session and staff update meeting. Today's date is May 28th, and the time is 9:50 a.m. We will call this meeting to order and take attendance, beginning with Ms. Mitchell.
Cynthia Mitchell, County Attorney.
Paula McFeeters.
Zach Swearingen.
Miles Lucero.
And then we have Craig McBrain up here, and then our treasurer, Kim Archuleta, is up here as well. And thank you to everybody else in attendance. Excuse me. That'll bring us into Craig with a financial update.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, get a little closer. As far as the presentation I prepared, it wasn't a general. This was I think a month ago maybe or so. We had this quick discussion about reserves, establishing that. We should go into it. Researched since then. So everything today is really general. I think, we want a formal policy, you want to set it, but also be reasonable and realistic as we do that. I think the upcoming strategic planning sessions, so, that's a good topic to set timelines, maybe not the level. I've started looking at that, but you want to go, I also have some notes I made for just a general update on projects and such, but the presentation is really about reserve funds. I think it's important for every county, but Pueblo County specifically, with what we've been through, we definitely know why we need reserves. Strengthen fiscal stability, protect against revenue volatility. We have up and down swings in valuations or changes. The legislature can ensure uninterrupted service to, for essential programs. Reserves support stronger credit when you need it. Their borrowing is slowing down. This next one, to the next slide. After researching GFOA, a lot of what other counties do, 2 months seems reasonable for a government our size. Smaller governments may need 4, 6 a year worth of reserves, depending on what they are and the type of crisis they may have. But our budget is pretty large, so 2 months aligns with GFOA best practices. It would be about 16 to 17% of annual expenses. I just did a quick calculation off our budget, and that would be about close to $24 million would cover 2 months of operating expenses.
Now, when you say operating, that's payroll and any other operating.
Everything.
That's the complete general fund expenditures. This one, this includes about 2 million in transfers out that wouldn't probably be part of that because that's really the operation of another fund, but
Okay.
we want to watch that too. But I just did a quick, for presentation purposes to give us an idea what that means to Pueblo County.
Is it so general fund expenditures? Is that across the board county spending? I guess
This
includes
is general fund reserve.
Okay.
I mean, there are other reserves. You could have reserves in different funds. I think the most pressing, though, the ones that help the most, those general fund reserves. There are restrictions on road and bridge funds. They get, gets its own mill levy. You budget within that. There are certain, requirements there. There are already restricted funds. There are ways, but we just try to operate within that mill levy, and that fund should probably be okay. There's highway funding. Things that come in, but today's presentation is mostly creating a general fund reserve, operating reserve.
With a $23 million aspirational goal to achieve.
If you're
Right.
hitting best practices, and for us, I think that's where it becomes part of strategy, because we also have to balance that with
Right.
immediate operational needs and financial health. We're getting by, but not necessarily putting, having surpluses
Right.
all over the place. Next slide, please. How to build this is you define targets and replenishment rules. If we make that 23 million and we have to use 5, how quickly do we rebuild it? When we have a drastic change in operating expenses, I think you have to think about that too. This year's 140 million. If for some reason next year we planned, something non-routine, non-recurring that, makes those general fund expenses 150, you may have to normalize it. You may have to set it to our normal spending, iron out. And I think also, you add contributions, and until you get there, part of strategy is, is getting 1 month priority, and there's a, a quicker timeline, and then getting to that second month, take a little bit more time. Not quite sure. There's a lot of things to talk about as we set strategy, but we limit the withdrawals to emergencies or revenue shortfalls, not just to support, needs that always seem to outpace revenues. Next slide. I want to point out, I think the policy could also be pretty simple. You don't have to direct 10% or 15%. To get there, you budget a surplus, and all of that surplus becomes reserve until you hit your goal. You know what I mean? This slide is just a snapshot of our 25, estimated ending fund balance. But in order to do this, we have to blank this use of fund balance. That's something that we don't do unless it's an emergency or restriction. And, we're not carving off 10% of our, you might effectively be carving off 10%, but we really need to just budget a surplus for a number of years. And after just a little bit of research conversation with the counties had a hard time doing that for a very long time. I think since the financial crisis, maybe in 2008, surpluses have been very hard to come by. Before that, there was, not much debt at all. So surpluses were
Not needed.
well, they existed. You had some surplus, you're able to build fund balance, but it's a lot easier to go than it is to build. So I think setting that tone, step one will be important. Hitting that surplus one time. I think there's some opportunity with this potential COP issuance and reimbursing the general fund. Some of that. Ideally we get through 2026 and, have established some fund balance with that through the year. That might be step one. There are a lot of ways to talk through getting there, but hitting that half of that first 12 million, pretty critical.
Well, again, I think that setting out the roadmap to build that reserve and us doing everything that we can, fully knowing that future boards can undo what we do. But as I've said before, if we establish this reserve fund in a very clear-cut manner and start building into it, and a future board wants to get rid of that, it's got to be done in a public session, and you have to be able to defend that to the general public of why you're stripping that money back. So there's so many obvious needs for us to go down this path.
And this is a disciplined approach to how we manage the county. This is intentionally saying we are no longer doing it the way we used to. We are now incorporating a disciplined approach for budgeting that includes a reserve. And so that's kind of where we start. We start setting an expectation with the policy and then incrementally building on it when we have those dollars available to move. I think it's important. It sends a message. And I think at this point, it's the hardest thing to do right now because we're dealing with a budget crisis in a way that has not been anticipated. It would have been easier to start something like this when you have a surplus. But I think initiating it in the middle of trying to get through this budget year is an important first step of saying, we're changing the way we do business. We're going to be disciplined and try to achieve revenue that goes into a reserve, that goes above our expenses. I think that's an important goal. And whether we can achieve it in a year or 2 or 5, I just think it needs to be part of our business practice here.
When do you anticipate being able to forecast revenue for 27 so that we can start to have the conversation? Is there any surplus available, or, can we budget a surplus? Is it even within the realm of reality?
When we can do that versus when we can easily do that, it's two kind of different things. I think we can do that today. We do house a lot of that data. The Treasurer's system has that. It's not in our main system yet for 2026. We do have, working on shoring up historical information. We're working on year-end 25 right now. Once 25 is solidified, I think forecasting revenues wasn't the most difficult piece of what we had to do last year. There's some, the way the data exists in the system with grants and you know, some of the challenges we've discussed previously made it a little hard in that area, but you know, property taxes, sales taxes, a lot of those things that hasn't been the most difficult thing to project. It's really about making the, you know, making the expenses fit within that. It's been the harder piece of that puzzle, but I think, you know, that's one of the projects I'll update on in a little while is that integration between the treasure system and Workday. We're picking that back up. We've had a retirement in IT that, you know, Ken, it worked in their IT behind the scenes and their data retired. We were in the middle of that project. We have to pick that back up and basically create the crosswalk, but there's an additional level of detail that the treasurer's office will need. We essentially, you know, started that project to map it in summary form, and then the treasurer's office would hold the detail. And their system doesn't necessarily hold beginning and ending balances. It's just cash collection. It reports, you know, for a given period, but we're adding a level of detail, and that has made it. We need to finish that project so that things can easily come in. It's critical to get it really fast. So that's becoming a priority, and more of a priority every day. We actually just met yesterday afternoon with the treasurer and some of the CPA firm personnel talking about the very same topic. You know, how do we get it in there? They need some 2026 activity in the system for, you know, testing subsequent events and, you know, things that came in as there's 26 things that look like 26 activity that really belong in 25. You know, the cash came in later, but we need that for a variety of reasons. We aren't, you know, we're not able to easily put together a financial report with revenues. We'd have to still merge two systems, but I think, you know, over the next month or so, that'll be a real priority to get that mapping complete. Good news is the data's there. And as soon as we, you know, complete the crosswalk and do some testing, it can all come, you know, within a day or two. Once the crosswalk is created and the mapping happens, we load it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then ideally it's a daily integration. That helps. You know, we have our bank accounts integrated. The Vectra accounts come straight into Workday. There's a mechanism there. Work with cash and revenues are two separate systems, but you know, coming in, we're going to have information that we haven't had very often. You know, it's like once a year type year-end stuff. We reconcile and catch up cash for all cash for the county is completely reconciled. That, you know, should be a lot easier and available in the system all the time. Once this is the kind of final piece of that puzzle. I think I have one more slide on the reserve. Yeah, I think we talked about when it should it be used. You know, it's that economic downturn, natural disaster, and one-time needs. But we're not just supplementing payroll. You know, we're not you know, making it every year's capital plan to dip into fund balance. You're really trying to plan to live within those revenues as they exist, grow revenues where you need to, and then live within that. But so I think, again, a lot of this can come up again in strategic planning if that, you know, works for you all as we work through those discussions. You know, trying to set realistic timelines, or at least goals. You know, you try to budget it, and might do a little better, you might do a little bit worse, but you know, at least having the plan, having the idea. You absolutely have the power to budget a surplus. It might be difficult, but it can happen, and you won't create a reserve necessarily without it. So,
Okay.
all right, I think that's all I have for the formal presentation or the PowerPoint presentation. I had a few updates on just projects.
Yeah.
We've talked about the data conversion from Progress to Workday being kind of incomplete because the 24 year end and audit was performed in the old system. The old system went away, very close to having those 24 balances, you know, cleaned up in Workday. I approximate 90%. A big part of that was getting all the cash and bank accounts. That was the hardest part, because you're not just making a journal entry to establish a balance. We're also, you know, creating those balances by bank, establishing all the banks, balancing that out by fund. So that's been the most difficult piece. That configuration is live. All the bank accounts exist now in the Workday, you know, production tenant. We've been testing it. So the accounts and the associated accounting, some of that, you know, some cash is restricted, non-restricted. Some is not actually cash. It's in, you know, short-term investments, long-term investments. So we have the structure all developed with the ledger. It was not converted like that. It all converted to one single ledger account, cash in bank, and then it acted like pooled cash. So now we've segregated, the pooled cash and investment component, which is most of what the treasurer holds, is all pooled. And then we have restricted funds, the project funds for Medal of Honor, the 1A funds are restricted for 1A projects. Those would be in restricted investments. They're dedicated to Fund 110. So that structure is all built. The balances are almost complete for year end 24, and we're ready to start testing reconciliations so we can catch, now that those accounts exist in Workday, we can start reconciling them through 25. That will be the plan for tomorrow and next week, is to gather a group of folks and start working through that. There's only a few people that attended, a couple of people in the treasurer's office, myself, attended those sessions during conversion. So work with some of Todd's team and the CPA staff. They're going to, so they might be able to assist with that, along with internal staff to teach and train along the way. That's a big step. That one has plagued us since conversion because it was wrong. And there's transactions we can't book because the accounts didn't exist or configuration wasn't complete. And then on top of that, just the rest of the ledger balances by fund for year end 24, we're getting very near, the audited totals so that the systems match and we can actually begin that, same type of work for 25. And the internal teams making corrections, some balancing issues. We had some things, booking one side of entries out of payroll, but the corresponding entries to pay those liabilities. We've had some mismatches that were configured, and just there's some things that were the, historic practice carried over on one side, but the payroll was configured a little bit differently. It's a lot of work lately to clean up ledger balances.
So from
So-
24 to 25, though, excuse me, is like, it should not be as cumbersome and or time consuming.
Correct. Processes, working on remapping them, relearning things. So so much of it's not the system, it's the process change that came with the system conversion. You can't do it the old way.
Right.
Or again, it's just a mismatch. We didn't quite get the memo to change our method. We did, but the county's big organization. There are lots of places that might have missed little memos, little changes, or not been aware of structural changes to the system that maybe changed what they do. We have hashed a lot of that out through 25. The biggest 25 project left, I think, is the grants reconciliation. After we get the beginning balances, still working through that grant activity. A lot of the expenses have been booked, still cleaning up revenue or conversion issues. Some grants, came in with conversion balances, and some things are a little more difficult to fix than just, the easy ones are where payroll just didn't get allocated to the grant or wasn't tagged early on. That's pretty easy. But there's some where the grant came in with a bad starting balance and, trying to pause everything that happens in the system, re-enter a conversion state, clean up the conversion activity that should have been part of 24, and then, let that flow into 20. But there's just some pieces that are a little more tedious, but that's progressing as well. It's a little more slowly than we'd hoped, but so I'll move on. We also didn't, part of the conversion to Workday, we didn't get complete the capital asset conversion. So that we pegged it as a, when we went live with Workday, that was an item that was set to be a fast follow. It should have been something that, once we worked through the kinks of conversion, those bugs, we immediately restart the process to convert our, business assets or capital assets. We're still working on those bugs. So assets have been delayed. One of the CPAs, Todd's team, has also been working on converting, because we didn't have access to the table directly into progress to get the assets we needed converted from PDFs of the asset listings to, get it into a usable format. Most of that's in Excel. We're working on that conversion. We'll need to balance some of Workday has asset book rules so that for different classes of assets, different types, buildings versus building improvements, bridges, road improvements, they all have different depreciable lives when we talk about accounting standards, and they've been different over time. Counties have different policies. So there's, long-lived assets coming into Workday with maybe a different a different depreciation period than would exist if you built a new bridge. So we need to reconcile through some of that difference. Most of it will just, convert as it was. We need to continue depreciating those assets as set forth when they went into service. But also making sure that the 2025 asset configuration, it also needs some attention. So we'll need to work through that, but getting that base, those assets, that list of assets with the detail for the purchase price and net book value and all those things established will be a big step. He's got a lot of that work done, has been testing it out for a few days, but I think we'll resume and we're making some progress there. Other than that, I'll have a few items to discuss with you pretty soon. I think a renewal of an agreement with JT
good.
and New Valley, I think LLC is his business name. But we require some of his services again, and I think we're out on that. So I'm going to talk about renewing that. He's very good in the areas that he's skilled with, so we'll be bringing that forward pretty soon. And then I'll have a cost allocation plan. I think that the county attorney's office now, we send a professional services agreement to them. They made some red lines and see about that, but it'll be one we need to get done as soon as we can. It's about an $8,500 agreement, but it opens the door for over $1 million in administrative cost reimbursements from state and federal programs when we have a structured cost allocation plan
Right.
and follow federal guidelines. We're eligible to get reimbursed for administrative costs.
That's the indirect
Indirect
rate we
cost,
talked
yeah,
about,
yes.
correct?
So that one is priority to get done pretty quick, but I'll have some of those things
Okay.
to get approved pretty quick, but I can't do them,
No, I get it.
So
Or we get
You've
it.
made a lot of progress. It's a little bit like with the workday situation, just to go back a little ways, you're like building a high-rise building from scratch in terms of the structure for the accounting that needs to be put into workday from the history of the county and progress to now. There's a lot of transactions and a lot of details. So thank you and your team for working diligently. I think the indirect cost rate is hugely important with the number of grants that we do get to get that indirect cost rate back to us that the federal government allows, and it can range from anywhere from 5% to, if our indirect cost rate's determined to be 23 or 45%. I've seen rates that are really incredible for us to get money back. And so it's important that we have that as we apply for grants. That's what allows you to offset the human resources, the accounting, all the internal things to basically administer a project with grant funds. The government's paying you back for your time. And so we've gone for years without really being able to take advantage of that. And so I encourage you to get us that agreement. That $8,500 spent for that is nothing compared to what we'll get back on it. And I'm thrilled to hear that JT is still working hard for us as our workday consultant. It's been hugely important to have his expertise with that software to get all of these things done. So thank you for continuing that relationship. And again, to you and your team, you're working hard and fast with a very limited number of people. And it is so hugely important to the future navigation of our county to know the details that you're working on. Thank you for presenting to us today and giving us a snapshot of what you've been doing and where you're going with that stuff. So thank you again.
Yeah, appreciate
you.
it.
We appreciate you. And I just want to commend you for working through everything that you inherited. And we know it's a lot and we appreciate it. Thank you, Treasurer, I think I've seen some great collaboration between the budget office and your office. So we appreciate it. And again, I think that's the only way we're going to work ourselves into a better situation is through that constant collaboration. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. McBrain.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Craig. And we just keep us in the loop on everything as you always do. And then we're somewhat on a time crunch, sorry, Kim. But
so here,
I was
but-
gonna just ask of when could you guys, do you think you can get it done in 15 minutes? Cause we've got a 10:30.
I will go ahead and leave that to Vectra. So in my efforts for transparency and education, everybody knows I'm very big on education and transparency. And I thought this was just a good way to piggyback off of Craig's presentation to bring Vector Bank in here and just talk about our relationship, kind of the things that I have done, that has helped, that has helped Pueblo County when it comes to cash flow and efficiencies, and how we can just continue to work on that, being in the, in the fact that we are in a budget crisis and we're really just working together to fix that. And so it's great when we have vendors like Vectra Bank that can help us and guide us in things to do so. So I'll go ahead and invite the Vectra team. You folks are more than welcome to either use the podiums, or you're more than welcome to just sit up here with us if you'd like. And Anthony does have the PowerPoint. So maybe, and I don't know, I did look through these slides, but maybe if we want to skip just to the informational piece of it, we could do that and probably get it wrapped up in 15.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jamie Burt. I'm market president here in the Pikes Peak region for Vectra Bank, Colorado. With me today are Della Tafoya, Brenda Tencio, and Laura Smith.
Good morning.
The key thing I would point out, Della is 20 years experience with our organization dating all the way back to Minnequa Bank, and serves as the retail manager here of our 3 locations here in Pueblo. Brenda is the account executive and business banking officer that directly works with the treasurer on the county's business. Laura, as I would say, is the hearts and brains of the technology that makes all this possible, serving as a treasury services officer for Vectra Bank. We as an organization are about $4 billion here in Colorado, with 34 locations, both on the front range and western slope. We are a division of Zions Bank Corp out of Salt Lake City. That organization is about $90 billion with 11, we're doing business in 11 states, primarily the western states, under 8 separate names, allowing our organization to maintain individual identity in each of the states or communities that we're working. But with this, let me turn it over to Della for a couple of comments, and then we'll get Laura right up here.
Good morning, everybody. And there are some slides that I'll be reviewing if you want to scroll through a little bit. But I've had the opportunity to work with Kim in the past, and I've seen how driven she is. And when I learned that she was coming here to the county, it was exciting to learn about what her vision was. And when Vectra Bank became a part of that partnership back in 2016, I firsthand have been able to see the relationship evolve over the last 10 years. Starting with basic banking needs, basic treasury management for the first several years of the relationship, but being able to see it evolve mostly over the last 3 years, being able to provide efficiencies and streamlines, not only for the Pueblo County employees, but the people of Pueblo County, being able to bring revenue earnings to the county through interest, having a strong partnership and really seeing the vision of what she has for the county. We work as a team, just like Jamie said, we are all here, not only with the people you see here today, but my entire frontline team who truly understands the depth of the relationship of the county. Obviously, we couldn't bring them all here today, but they all play a vital role in the support of what we are able to do to provide these services. And the slides, I think they're a little further if you want to scroll just a little bit more.
Hey, Della.
Yeah. You can
Della,
start
if
there.
you back off that mic just a tiny bit.
Is that better?
It might eliminate that feedback that.
Sorry.
tell you.
But Vectra Bank, we are also very active in our Pueblo community. This is on the next slide. We love to support. We're out and about. We give back through sponsorships, donations, volunteer work. And for that, just last year, there were many awards that we won by doing what we do. So the partnership is proud. We're continuing to make it work for everybody involved. Listening, understanding, I think is the biggest thing, is really understanding the needs of the county. Kim has done a phenomenal job of helping us learn more about what her vision is. And we just really look forward to the opportunity for future revenue for the county, future streamlined processes, and just an overall stronger relationship. Are you up? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Okay. I'm not a mic user, so that weirds me out. Um, if you want to go to the previous slide, it just gives a quick overview of what your relationship looks like today. We've got 12 different bank accounts that we help the county manage. We've got an interest-bearing gold sweep account that we'll deep dive into a little more. In Treasury, we've got your standard reporting, ACH wire origination. We've done some consolidation to for cash consolidation so that you're earning interest. We're sweeping as much as we can to make money for you. Protecting your accounts against fraud, which is so important in this day and age. And then the remote deposit capture file transmission, that's what Craig was talking about, where those bank feeds go right into Workday. It also allows you to send information to us. And then the lockbox services, those last three we've worked with Kim's team to put into place over the last 2 years, and the level of efficiency and growth it's allowed y'all to have is amazing. And then we've got a commercial card for purchasing and accounts payable. If you want to go to the next slide, this shows you the impact of putting into place that interest-bearing sweep. We did that in October of 2024. And what it shows is that green line is your cost of service. The orange line is the earnings credit. Earnings credit is like monopoly money that you get a percentage back based on your account balances. It's designed to offset the cost of service. But as you can see, it doesn't do that. It's not doing that a lot. And previously, we had to work to manipulate that to make it good. In working with Kim, we decided in October to start doing that interest-bearing sweep. And you'll see that purple line shows how much money you're getting paid in interest as compared to the cost of service. So almost double so you're earning in interest, almost double what you're paying in services. And it's just such a smart way to manage your money well and put those idle funds to work for you. So it's truly liquid funds, but it's earning, and we just increased it at the end of April to 2.75%. So you're earning a significant amount on those funds that are there that need to remain liquid. Next slide, please. The other way that the county is earning money and generating revenue is with our commercial card program. So in 2025, the county had almost $3 million in spend on your commercial card program. You're part of our municipal consortium, so you are earning 1.3% on the majority of your spend. There's some based on what interchange is done, where it breaks out and it's a little bit different spend, and that's, I've shown you the breakdown there. But you earned almost $27,000 in revenue share rebate in 2025. So that is funds that we give back to you. It's technically not considered income from my understanding, but consult tax experts to be sure it's a discount on service. But it's a great way for you to create a revenue stream from your payables and expenses. Next slide. So when I look at the county's relationship and what we've done in the past, what you're doing now, these are the things that I see that we can do together. And this is just some. I'm open to ideas, and really we do hope to make this a conversation and address your questions. One of the things that we would like to do is a business process review with all the departments within the county. What that does is it allows us to sit side by side with your team, see what their processes are. Look how money comes in and how it's handled. Look at how money goes out and how that's done, and identify areas of inefficiencies, pain points, places where we can bring solutions to decrease costs, increase revenue that comes in. A couple of examples of when we did that. One, we did a process review with the treasurer's office, and we were able to cut payment processing delays and accelerated deposit turnaround. When we did this, there was a 3-week backlog in processing tax payments that had been mailed in. And by creating a lockbox, establishing the lockbox, every payment that comes in today is processed today. I remember how excited I was on day one when we got the first lockbox processing. We processed $1 million in payments that went directly into the bank account that day and were swept at the end of the day to start earning interest. That's a huge impact because that $1 million was sitting in boxes waiting to be processed the year before. The other thing we did was we went to the clerk and recorder's office and reviewed their processes for payments. And one of the things we realized is they were accepting checks at their remote locations and then having those checks couriered to the centralized office to be processed for deposit. And we worked with our Zions Bank Corporation product manager to do a custom structure so that those deposits are done remotely. They're scanned remotely, but reviewed here in the central office. So streamlining. Would love to take that opportunity in other departments and see where we can do things like that. The other thing is related to your commercial card. We did a benchmark analysis, looked at other municipalities the same size as Pueblo County, and determined that a typical county your size does about $4.5–5 million in spend on their commercial card. So there's an opportunity for us to do an assessment of or analysis of your vendors to see where else we can find additional spend. And we think there'd be another $2.4 million that we could identify that you could use that commercial card for, which would generate another almost $27,000 in revenue share. So it's something, again, stuff to look at. Lastly, let's look at the sweeps that we have in place. We've got about 6 accounts that sweep to the general operating account, and there are a handful of ones that Kim said it just doesn't make sense for those to sweep. We need to keep those funds separate. We want to take a look at those and see, can we pay you interest on that other $1.7 million? So just some ideas that we can do, and that's how we partner, is we think about it and look at it and then have a conversation. So I'll pause there and see, what questions do y'all have for our Vectra team?
I do have a quick question regarding the business process review. I love the idea of going department by department and doing that analysis. Is there a cost associated with that, or is that something you do as a partner because it benefits all of us?
We do it as a partner. There's no cost. We'll coordinate with those individual departments on a day and time that works. And I think we spend about 2.5 hours in the treasurer's office, so it just kind of depends. But yeah, we're happy to bring our team in. Typically, that would be me, it would be Brenda, it would be my treasury associate who looks for more operational specifics than I do. And we'll walk with whoever that team is and just sit side by side.
Thank you.
Made note for internal county departments, a lot of that activity does flow through the treasurer's office. So with the treasurer and the clerk, you've got a lot of the heavy lifting there, as you look at those two directly interfacing to the bank. Most departments don't take activity to the bank or use. They may have P cards or other structure, but I'd certainly like to work with you on a few ideas I have maybe.
Yeah, oh, that'd be terrific. Because, what we see is when we were at the treasurer's office, you've got the cage where all the deposits come to the cage and then they're processing those deposits. And we could easily do what we did for the clerk and recorder's office. And instead of bringing those checks to the cage for deposit, they're scanned at the desk of that department. And then, but it's one deposit still, and they can review it at the cage level. So, but they're not having to physically bring those checks for deposit. It's a simple thing like that.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Jamie, and your team for helping our treasurer. I've had many conversations with Treasurer Kim, and she's very innovative in wanting to get us into the digital age of getting money in the bank and earning that interest. So I want to say thank you for helping us. It's huge to know that we have your support in innovating and getting interest on the money that we take in, because it does help us immensely. So I want to say thank you to all of you and for coming today to our work session to explain it, and helping Craig as well. It's just a team effort across the board, and we're just really glad to have you as a partner in that. So thank you for taking time today.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate it. Again, coming in today, and sorry for the time crunch. But the consistency in working with all of us and all of our departments, and Kim, to your point, I mean, plenty of conversations on her desire to bring us into the 21st century on a bunch of different fronts, and to have a willing and able partner in that, and the investment opportunities, in generating interest, all of these things, we need that partner. And I think Kim is very well satisfied with y'all, and we look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you. And we love working with Kim. She is so open to ideas and suggestions and wants to bring that innovation. It's just been a true delight to partner with her.
Awesome to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Treasurer.
That will leave us with a request for executive session, Miss, or we don't, do you guys have anything else for any operational updates
No, sir.
today? Yeah. That'll leave us with a request for executive session, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Commissioners. It would be appropriate to go into executive session for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS Section 24.6, 424B, and the specific legal issues are regarding a memorandum of understanding regarding Project Falcon and determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24.6, 424E regarding a memorandum of understanding regarding Project Falcon.
Thank you. I will ask for a motion to go into executive session for the reasons cited.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're in executive session.